This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face, you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game, talk trash all you want. To me it's all the same, you won't leave with much when you come in second place. And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gon' cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the HPT. This week, we're coming to you from the Ameristar in Vicksburg, Mississippi. I'm Fred Bevel. The lady to my left is poker professional Maria Ho.
This is our first stop in Vicksburg, and let me tell you, we have got a big spoonful of Southern hospitality from local players and staff. And the HPT faithful that travel to this beautiful property have already been asking when we're coming back.
Ameristar casinos, Maria, across the nation are known for great hotels, food, and exciting gaming action. Well, this week our players had all of that and more. The cash games have been cranking, the jackpots have been going off all around us.
Well, the biggest jackpot of the week has yet to be awarded, and one of these skilled players will be our next HPT champion. But to get to the top of this field will take some good timing, some good choices, and maybe even a little luck.
We've got to have a little bit of luck. We've got a lot of exciting action in store for you.
But first, let's meet our players at the final table and then take a look at what they're playing for and their chip counts.
My name is Ben Thomas. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I'm a civil engineer.
Jackson White from Houston, Texas, and I do poker for a living.
Danny Doucette from Opelousas, Louisiana. I'm semi-retired, retired about 10 years ago. I still work a little bit.
Mac Ledbetter, I'm from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I'm a tech entrepreneur.
My name is Albert Campbell. I'm from Utica, Mississippi. And by occupation, I'm a carpenter, painter, contractor.
Chris Booth, I'm an attorney from Vidalia, Louisiana.
My name is Doug. Most people call me Captain around here and live here in Vicksburg.
I am Jay Bishop. I'm from Pearl, Mississippi, and I am an elected official from Rankin County.
When I signed up, I didn't think that I would make the final table because of the percentages. But I got lucky and I did, and I'll do my best.
I think I'll probably just, try to pick my spots, not get too carried away early, try to fill out the table.
This is the first major tournament that I've ever been in. I was expecting it to be more of a learning experience, which it has been, but it'd be nice to get some money out of it too.
My plans for cash today is I have 2 kids in college, so I'm sure it won't take long to suck it up.
If I win this event, it'd kind of be local bragging rights. I'd have a lot of fun with the guys,
HPT is great. It has a great structure, great dealers, and the players are fun to play with, very fun.
And it's just kind of a different atmosphere, some of these guys who are looking to come out and just have a good time playing poker, I would definitely recommend playing HPT.
Wait for some good hands and shove it all in.
Let's take a look at what our players are going to be playing for. Top prize is going to take home just under $40,000. The runner-up is going to take home just shy of $25,000. And everybody at the final table today will go home with at least $4,647.
And here is the starting chip count of the final 9.
Coming into the final table as our chip leader is Jackson White with 530,000 chips, which is about 20% of the chips in play. Ben Mintz and Mac Ledbetter in second and third chip position have 339,000 and 323,000 respectively. And our short stack is Ben Thomas, who with 172,000 still has 22 big blinds.
So here we go. Blind starting at this final table here at the Ameristar in Vicksburg are 4 and 8,000 with a 1,000 chip ante. And that is Albert Campbell. Gun raised with Queen Jack suited.
Albert came into this final table with 29 big blinds, so he's got a little room.
As the action folds around to the 9 seat of Ben Thomas, and he's going to lay it down. Now we're over to Danny Doucette in the 1 seat. And here is our chip leader, Jackson White. He's got pocket 8s. He is going to make the call. Chris Booth is going to fold. And now over to Mac Ledbetter in the big blind. Even with the pot odds, those aren't good enough to play. So we're heads up going to our first flop.
All right, Lord, let's go ahead and shoot the flop, please.
And the flop is a 10-10 deuce, couple of hearts. Jackson's eights still in the lead, but Albert has the betting lead, and let's see if he's going to continuation bet here.
Continuation bets, very powerful in post-flop play. And Albert is going to put a little bit of a bet out there, 20,000.
I think it's safe to assume that Jackson's going to call here. Not a terrible flop for his eights. Paired board with one overcard.
The turn is the 6 of spades, so now Albert picks up a flush draw.
Albert's picked up a whole lot of equity there with that turn card, and if I were him, I would bet again. You do have 2 overs to the board. You have a flush draw now, and you have a chance of getting Jackson to fold if you bet.
And he does bet, this time a good-sized bet, 50,000.
I think this bet makes it a little bit tougher for Jackson to call, but I think he still might go for it.
He is going to call off one more street here with his pocket eights.
And now this is where I would really like to see Albert, whether he makes his flush or hits his overcards or not, to bet again on the river. Very tough for Jackson to call 3 bullets here.
River is a king of clubs, so it misses Albert. Let's see if he can fire that third bullet.
55, I'm not going to call. I'm going to check it to you.
I think the more Albert talks, the more Jackson feels good about his hand. And now Albert's going to check. No reason for Jackson to bet. And he's going to table the winning hand.
And you could tell how happy Jackson was to get to showdown with eights right there after that run out. So I really do think Albert missed a chance to take this pot down.
It's time to step aside for a quick commercial break, but when we come back, more exciting final table action here from the Ameristar Casino Hotel in Vicksburg, Mississippi. You're watching the HPT. All right, Craig, you've had so much success here on the HPT. A lot of people ask me, what's the secret to your success?
I don't know. You just got to know when to make the right moves against the right people. Aggression is a big part of my game, and I don't think a lot of people expect it because of my age. But I don't know. I just think if you can't figure out how to win pots when you don't have a hand, you've got really no chance at poker.
Yeah. And you're tied for the most cashes on the HPT with Stan Jablonski. Stan's not a bad player. Are you going to try to leap over him here at this event?
I enjoy the competition. You know, it makes both of us better, I think. And we enjoy the fight.
And I see you've got a sponsor now. Who's Ivy?
Ivy is a restaurant back in Wheaton, Illinois that my best friend owns, Dick O'Gorman. He said, if you ever get on TV again, wear my jacket. So just now I ran back to the hotel, jumped over a fence, twisted my ankle, but I drove the car back so that I wouldn't get any worse than it was.
All right, well, good luck to you, Craig. And Dick, if you're watching, both of us, we want steak and lobster. Steak and lobster.
I'm sure he'll take care of that next time you're in Chicago.
What a week it's been. We've seen some great poker action and, of course, beautiful weather right here on the Mississippi. Let's get back to our nationally televised final table. Freddie and Maria, we'll send it over to you.
Jackson White has increased his chip lead from the start of the final table now. He's got 636,000. Ben Mintz still very comfortable in the second spot with 338,000. Ben Thomas and Albert Campbell are our short stacks with 171,000 and 145,000.
Albert down to 18 big blinds. You can see in the swing stack graphic, if only he could have fired that third bullet, things might be a little bit different as we continue at 4 and 8,000 blinds with a 1,000 chip ante. And this gentleman is Jay Bishop. He's got the rookie hand, King Jack. They call King Jack the rookie hand because it looks pretty, but it's also easily dominated.
And I think when you just limp in from under the gun with King Jack, that just makes your hand a little bit harder to play after the flop. Like you said, King Jack isn't a great hand, so if you want to come in and play, you should probably just come in for a raise. We'll see how this works out for him, though.
Well, action is folding around. Now we're back to our chip leader, Jackson White. He's going to take this hand off as we move over to Chris Booth.
Jackson did the whole, I'm the chip leader, I really want to play, but I guess his hand's not good enough fold.
Mac is also going to fold.
Albert's going to take his option and check.
Got me gunshot right now.
And the flop is Ace 10 Jack Rainbow. So Albert has flopped an open-ended straight draw. Jay has middle pair and a gut shot straight draw.
Albert needs Jay's king to make his straight. Jay needs Albert's queen to make his straight.
The turn is the 9 of hearts. So now Albert's got a piece of this with bottom pair.
And, we'll have to see what happens on the river, but Albert's shown that he will fire 2 streets, but maybe not on the third one. I think Jay's just hoping to get to showdown here with his second pair.
The river brings the 7 of clubs, a blank, so Jay has the best of it with a pair of jacks with a king-high kicker.
Pair of jacks.
And it does go check, check, and Jay's going to win at showdown. And I feel like maybe not so much this hand, but the hand before, Albert did have a really big missed opportunity there. And you're just bleeding chips at this point, and I think you could sense a little frustration in that.
Albert started this hand with about 18 big blinds, so probably bled off another 6 or 7 big blinds after that hand. Albert's going to need to get the momentum on his side, or it's going to be a short visit at this final table.
Blinds continue at 4 and 8K with a 1K ante.
In action, we'll start with Danny Doucette. He's got Queen 10 offsuit. Maria, one thing I've learned from you over the last couple of years is don't play those hands under the gun. You've saved me about $10,000 over the last couple of years.
Fred, you know that your wife is going to thank me for the money that now you're going to be spending on her instead.
No, I'll just spend it on other things. 6-9 offsuit is Mac Ledbetter's hand. That goes into the muck. Now we're back to Albert. Albert's been very active, but he's going to take this hand off. Now it's Jay Bishop's turn. He is going to open with a raise to 16,000 with 7-5 offsuit. That's a little surprising, Maria.
Yeah, but I like it. He's in really late position. He's on the cutoff there. There's only one person with position on him. So I like to see that he's opening it up right here.
Doug Seegers has looked down at ace-jack suited, so I'm pretty sure he is going to play this hand.
Yeah, and if I were Doug Seeger, I think I would 3-bet this hand from the small blind.
He chooses just a flat. And now Ben Thompson's going to fold.
I mean, I don't like this flat, especially because Doug has about 23 big blinds in his stack. I think it's a very clear situation where you 3-bet, get it in.
The flop is 3 ace ace with a couple of clubs, so Douglas has nailed this flop with trip aces.
That's not one of those flops where it's going to be hard to know where you're at with ace jack. And, good for Doug to check it over to Jay and let Jay fire another one.
And it looks like Doug is staging a check raise here, but he hasn't moved the chips towards the middle.
I wouldn't check raise this if I were Doug. I think I would just let Jay continue to represent. But, and making it 60K too, I don't think Jay has any plans here to float him and call this flop, especially with a flush draw on the flop. So I think he's going to lose a lot of value here, and I just don't think that there's any reason to fast play.
Do you think Doug was a little worried about that flush draw, and that's why he did a check raise, just to shut down the hand right there?
Yeah, but I think in this situation, he's not short stacked, but he's on the shorter side. I think you have to just take the equity where you can and just maximize the value instead of, being afraid of what's going to come next.
It's time to step aside for a quick commercial break, but before we do, I want to let you know, check out our webpage at hptpoker.com. If you're watching this event and you think maybe you can sit down at this final table and play for the Unreal Cash, check it out. Find an event that works for you. More final table coverage coming your way. You're watching the HPT.
Welcome back to the HPT. We're at Ameristar in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and everybody has been so friendly, but when we get to the poker tables, it's all business. Not much movement in the top spots. Jackson White steadily holding on to his chip lead. Mac Ledbetter in second chip position has 341,000. As you can see, the rest of the players from Ben Mintz all the way down to Daniel are all bunched up around the 200,000 range. Our short stack is Ben Thomas with just 12 big blinds. Blinds are up to 5,000, 10,000 with a 1,000 ante.
And action in this hand, we'll start with Chris Booth. Chris looks like the kind of guy I'd expect to see at a Barnes & Noble writing poetry on a Thursday night. Just looks super smart.
He just needs a beret. It's going to make it 20,000 to go from under the gun with ace-jack offsuit.
And action is going to fold around to Doug. And he's going to lay it down over to Ben Thompson. He hasn't been too active at this final table so far. Just listening to his Katy Perry music. Now over the one seat of Danny Doucette.
And he's going to complete from the small blind with King Jack offsuit.
And now it's Jackson White in the big blind with ace-9.
I imagine that Jackson is going to call from the big blind here.
And per usual, Maria, you are correct in your predictions about poker.
3 ways to the flop. Danny is going to be first to act.
And the flop delivers a whole lot of paint. King, queen, king with 2 diamonds. Danny just smashed this flop, flopping trip kings.
Danny, who was completely dominated pre-flop, has now taken the lead in a huge way with this flop, but they both check it over to Chris, who, with a gut shot straight draw, decides that he wants a continuation bet here, hopefully try to take this down right now. It's not a terrible flop for ace high. And you know, Danny decides that he just wants to check raise right here, right now, and it's just a min raise. Danny's going to be all in as he has about 218,000 to Chris's 250,000.
Well, Danny is going to see the good news. He's got a stranglehold on this hand. He just needs to fade the 10 for Chris to hit Broadway, and he's going to double up.
Oh my gosh, the turn is the 10 of spades. And Chris is now in the lead with Broadway. Danny needs to hit a king, a queen, a 10, or a jack in order to stay alive.
Chris just pulls a miracle on the turn here, hitting Broadway.
Jack fills him up.
And the river card is no good for Danny, so just like that, Maria, poker can be a brutal game sometimes. Danny flops trips and then just gets squashed on the turn and couldn't find the savior card on the river, and he is going to end up leaving us in 9th place.
That's just an unfortunate beat that Danny took right there for his tournament life here. As you know, in No Limit Texas Hold'em, sometimes you could be way ahead on one street and way behind on the next. And unfortunately for Danny, he wasn't drawing dead, but the river just wasn't there to help him out this time.
Danny, being the classy guy he is going to walk around the table and shake everyone's hand, wishing them luck as they continue to fight for this HPT championship. Blinds continue at 5 and 10,000 with a 1,000 chip ante. We move around to Ben Thomas, who finally wakes up with a playable hand with Queen Jack. He's been card dead so far at this table.
And I don't like that fold from Ben. He only has 11 big blinds and the pot has been unopened. He's in middle position. Queen Jack is definitely a good enough hand to shove there, but he decides that he wants to play really, really tight with a stack that you don't have much room to play that tight with. So I think he had a missed opportunity there to shove.
Chris is going to come in on a limp with ace-queen offsuit from the cutoff.
Limping with ace-queen on the cutoff is not something I would recommend. I feel like Ben Thomas might feel better about his folds if he sees his hand shown down, but you know, you cannot be results-oriented in poker.
And the flop is 4-deuce-5. We're going to see some fireworks here, Maria. Albert has flopped a flush. Jay has flopped the 6-high straight.
And Albert's just going to lead into Jay here. Jay's double checking to make sure he indeed does have the straight. Little does he know it's the second best hand. Probably going to stop Chris from overcalling though.
I'm kind of surprised I didn't see Jay put in a raise with the 3 hearts out there, just to kind of find out where his straight might be.
I don't mind that he just called. I think that he wants to see a safe card come on the turn. I think if Albert does have a heart, Jay can't expect him to fold. Now that the turn is a brick of some sort to Jay's hand, I think this is where he's going to probably play a little bit stronger. But with Albert going all in, Jay has to call.
And Jay, very confident he's got the winning hand, tables the straight right away, and Albert just now shows him the flush.
A little bit of a delayed show there, just slightly.
Jay, drawing dead from the flop, is going to have to pay Albert off.
And I feel like Chris is a little bit responsible for all of that, because if he didn't limp and he had come in with a raise, maybe Albert and Jay wouldn't be in this hand.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to see 9-3 and 6-3 go to a flop in a raised pot. But instead, 2 monsters collide here at this final table from the Ameristar in Vicksburg, and Albert is going to double up. Well, Maria, we are just getting started at this final table. Already these players are showing they're not afraid to move chips around. Stay tuned. We got a lot of fun poker coming up right after this.
Welcome back to the HPT here in Vicksburg, Mississippi, coming to you from the Ameristar Casino Hotel. Let's head back inside of the poker room and pick up action at our HPT final table.
Jackson White refusing to give up the chip lead here, and instead he's just pulling away a little bit at a time. He's up to 640,000 now. Chris Booth had a huge increase from the last chip counts. He's up to 502,000. Our short stack Ben Thomas has let himself blind all the way down to 96,000.
Blinds continue at 5 and 10,000 with a 1,000 chip ante. As Ben Mintz looks down at his hand and folds over to Douglas Seegers now. Douglas goes by the Captain. That's a cool nickname. I need a nickname besides what I know everybody calls me.
What does everybody call you?
I can't say it on TV.
I was trying to think. I was like, I can't even say what I call you on TV, and that's not even your actual nickname.
Chris is going to come in for a raise to 25,000 with a suited A7. Can't blame Chris for opening up his game a little bit. Things have been going well for him in the last few hands. Albert Campbell, the cowboy, is going to play this hand with Queen Jack suited. And now we're over to Jay Bishop, who just doubled up Albert. Jay had flopped the straight. Albert had flopped the flush.
He's going to sit out of this one.
So heads up to the flop between Albert and Christopher.
And the flop is 7-5 Queen Rainbow. Albert's flop top pair.
He's going to check his top pair here, and don't blame him for that since Chris was the pre-flop raiser.
Yeah, and I think it's nice that Albert isn't just leading out every time he has a piece or is on a semi-bluff, because as you've seen, he has done that before. It's becoming a little bit of a pattern for him. So Chris does continuation bet 50,000, and it's a very standard bet here with middle pair.
Albert takes a second look at his cards and makes the call.
The turn is the 9 of hearts. Albert is still in the lead. And if Albert decides to check here, I believe Chris is just going to check back. I don't think that there's much value in firing the turn here.
Albert does check, and Chris continues to keep his foot on the gas pedal as he fires 100,000.
And this is where I said I would have just checked back, because I'm not sure if Chris knows what he's trying to accomplish. Is he trying to bet Albert off of a better hand? Or is he thinking he's going to get value from worse? I don't really see either being that probable.
The river is the queen of hearts, so he's not getting Albert to go anywhere. He's just river trip queens. And I think it'd be good for Albert to bet here. I think after calling 100,000 on the turn, Chris is just going to shut down.
Well, yeah, that's definitely an interesting lead situation for Albert, and he does do that, and it's only 75,000, and I guess Chris just doesn't believe him, and he's going to call.
I think that board pairing a queen on the river made it less likely to Christopher that Albert could have a queen.
Absolutely.
So really the only card he's afraid of is a 9, which didn't show up until the turn. So if you backtrack the hand, I can see Chris thinking he was okay there. But he was not good, and now it's Albert who is going to stack over 500,000. Poker's getting a little more expensive. We're now up to 6,000, 12,000 with a 1,000 chip ante. As we continue on to the next hand, it looks like action will start with Jay Bishop. Jay peels back Jack 9 diamonds. Maria, for my dollar, Jack 9 suited, not the hand you want to play under the gun, but if you're going to play it, you might as well do what Jay does, is raise it.
Yeah, I don't mind Jay raising under the gun with it. It's just a little inconsistent because we saw Jay limp under the gun with King Jack, but now he wants to raise under the gun with Jack 9 suited, and I just, really want players to be aware of these things that they're doing that are a little bit counterintuitive.
Jackson White looks down at King 8 offsuit. Jackson started this final table as the chip leader. He's held the chip lead. Was pretty active as we got started here, but since he's quieted down a little bit.
Action folded all the way to Chris on the button. He's going to let it go.
And now it's Mac Ledbetter's turn. Queen 3. Yep, that's what you do with that hand. You throw it away. Let's see what Mr. Albert Campbell wants to do.
And it looks like Albert is going to make the call from the big blind. That hat does say I'm here to play, so
sure does.
He does not like to fold.
So King 8 offsuit versus Jack 9 suited as we go to the flop.
And the flop is ace-9 for 2 hearts, so neither player has connected with this flop, but it's a pretty easy flop for Jay to represent here, seeing as how he raised under the gun.
The beauty of the pre-flop raise, my friend, you taught me this. Take the betting lead. The C-bet's going to work about 80% of the time.
Unless Albert decides to take the betting lead from you. But what is happening here? Albert decides to lead into him. And Jay, I like it. Jay's going to raise him. Jay does have middle pairs, so he doesn't need to raise. But I think he just senses weakness in Albert. He's seen Albert lead out in a lot of situations. So Jay feels fairly confident, I think.
And Jay looks confident. I mean, Albert leaned forward to look at Jay's stack, and Jay just kind of leaned back and opened up his arms so he could get a good look at it.
What does that mean?
I bet it 25,000. What does that mean?
It means you need to put 50 more out there.
Logic telling me I need to fold.
I like how they're playing unfriendly poker, but the talk is very friendly and very fun and lighthearted here at this table.
Trying to buy that one, wasn't you?
If I tried to buy it, you rebought it.
That's the thing about HPT events. People have a good time when they play our final tables.
Any one of these players could take down this HPT title. Come back for more from Ameristar in Vicksburg, Mississippi.
Thanks for coming back to the HPT. We're at the Ameristar Casino here in Vicksburg, Mississippi with Maria Ho. I'm Fred Bevel, and Maria, a poker match can be a lot like a roller coaster. Well, this one, you might need a barf bag. Let's get right back to the action.
No surprise here that Jackson White is still on top of the chip counts. He's played a very solid and steady game up to this point. Albert Campbell is all the way up to second place now with 566,000. Chris Booth, 481,000, and down to our 2 short stacks, the Benz with 94,000 and 90,000.
The Benz on the bottom. You can see by the chip swing graphic, Ben Mintz has really lost a ton of chips, almost 300,000 since we last checked in. Earl Campbell, exactly opposite. He's gained 315,000 since we last checked in, and is not too far behind our chip leader, Jackson White. Blinds continuing at 6 and 12,000 with a 1,000 chip ante. Jackson folds Queen 9. Chris is going to lay his hand down. Deuce 8, probably not good enough for Mac Ledbetter to play. You can see his frustration of being a little card flat. Albert Campbell, he doesn't need cards, but he has them here with Ace Jack.
He's going to make a raise to 36,000, and looks like Ben's thinking it's a little bit of a tough decision there with King 10 suited, but he is going to let it go.
Smart lay down on that man's part. 8-9 offsuit for Douglas Sears.
And Doug's got about 15 big blinds, so I don't like that he's just going to call here with 9-8 offsuit. I think that with that stack, you're really looking to shove or fold over a raise.
Willing to go down with it.
The flop is 10 Jack 7. So look at this. Doug flops the straight. Albert sitting with top.
So they're probably going to get the chips in here, and I think Doug is just very fortunate that he flopped a straight and Albert has such a big piece of it. Doug checks it over to Albert.
Hold up. Y'all gonna call that a bet?
Albert's chip stack had fallen forward, and he was worried that was going to constitute a bet, but everybody knows it was a mistake. They're going to let him pull it back. So now Albert does get the chips he wants and puts those forward. It's 35,000. Douglas sitting on the nuts. Douglas all in now.
And you know, it's really not that much more for Albert to call, and he does have top pair with top kicker. So there's just a situation where Albert's pretty much going to double Douglas up unless he can go runner boat on him.
Doug, you're a good fellow.
And Albert is going to make the expected call, and he's going to find out he needs a whole lot of luck. Pretty much has to go perfect on the turn in the river to suck out here. Albert hoping for some outs on the turn.
The turn is a 10, and that is one of the outs that Albert's looking for. Now a jack or a 10 will give him a boat.
Pairing the board on the turn adds a little drama, gives us a fun sweat into the river. Douglas hoping to find a blank. Albert looking for a 10 or a jack.
And the river is not what Albert's looking for, and he is going to double up Douglas in this hand.
The captain, as they call him, is going to get some fresh chips to his stack.
The ship is still a-moving. It's heading down the Mississippi, and it's picking up.
I love Albert. He just doubles a player up. He's going to take a sip of his orange juice and get back after it. One of my favorites at this table right now. Mac's going to fold. Here we go to the cowboy. He's going to lay it down. Jay Bishop, he's going to fold. Here's Ben. Nope. How about Douglas? Fresh off a double up with an unsuited ace. Not going to be the hand he wants. Queen 10 with 6 bigs, good enough for me.
Absolutely, that is more than good enough. Ben has waited too long already, in my opinion. Now he's going to go all in, and the big blind is pretty much priced in to call with most hands. Not all. I definitely wouldn't be calling with the bottom 5% of my range here.
He said call, folks. We flip over the cards and we give you detail of the tape.
Well, Ben's going to the flop behind with 1 overcard to Christopher's jacks.
3 change, but I mean.
Ben been quiet at this final table, hoping to get lucky and stay alive. Here comes the all-in flop.
And the flop is 9-8-8. So Chris is still in the lead with the jacks. Ben is still looking for a queen because a jack does not help him, because even though it gives him the straight, it would give Chris a boat.
3 of hearts falls on the turn. So now only a queen will save Ben's tournament life. Otherwise, he will be our 8th place finisher.
The river is the deuce of spades, and Ben is going to be eliminated. I think he just bled down to 6 big blinds, so there's really not much he could do. He was at the mercy of the cards.
Every sport has its legends. Well, the poker world, we have the beloved Doyle Brunson. It's time for a Poker Life featuring Mr. Brunson, and this week he talks about his competitive spirit and how he grew up with sports.
Grew up in a town where there was, there wasn't any facilities for sports really. There was only 5 of us in my class, and we had some kind of sport all day, every day. The three guys, and it looked like it. We didn't know that we were poor, but we were very poor. As we got older, we said, well, the only way we ever going to get out of here is on some kind of athletic scholarship, because our parents probably couldn't have sent us to college and everything. And so we worked toward that goal. And I was fortunate to grow up with these 2 guys that were tremendous athletes. Both of them made all conference at my university, who we all 3 went to the same university even. Sammy Ball actually called one of my friends the best college end he'd ever seen. And so it was a big part, and I had my life planned out. I was going to go to the NBA. The Lakers had already talked to my coach and said they were going to make me their #1 draft choice at the end of my junior year. I had a big junior year, and then I busted my leg that summer. I didn't get to compete as a senior. But that was my plan. I was going to come back. I was going to coach and teach after my NBA career was hopefully going to be a long one, because I think I was a little bit ahead of my time. Not like these guys today maybe, but I had a few pretty good moves that was kind of unique back in those days. And it was it wasn't just important, it was the most important thing in my life.
Well, I will never get tired of hearing a Doyle Brunson story. Come back for more from Ameristar Casino here in Vicksburg, Mississippi when we come back. Thanks for joining us here on the HPT. We're at Ameristar in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Let's get back to all the action.
Chris Booth taking that chip lead as his stack has increased just under 200,000 since we last checked in. Albert Campbell gone the other way as he's lost just over 185,000 since we last checked in. Ben Mintz on the short stack with just 6 big blinds. He's looking for anything to double up with. Blinds are getting a little more pricey. It's now 8 and 16,000 with a 2K. And Douglas Seegers will be first to act this hand. Douglas goes by the name The Captain. And right now the Captain peels back a hand I have a special spot for in my heart. King Queen.
If I had $1 for every person that came up to me and was like, what do you think about Fred's hand, King Queen? I'd be like, so much richer than I am.
One of these days you're going to win a bracelet with that hand and you're going to become a believer. So Doug is going to raise it to 40,000, as you should do with the nuts, and action's going to fold around now to our new chip leader, Chris Booth.
And Chris has pocket queens here, and he decides he's just going to call. I think that when Douglas Reyes is under the gun and he hasn't been too active, I like just calling with queens. I think that you're in position and you do have a very, very strong hand. It's fine to just see the flop and continue on from there.
One of the disadvantages, Maria, in my opinion, to being known as the tightest player at the table is you're not going to get much action when you do connect with a big one.
The flop is Jack 8 deuce, couple of diamonds, so Douglas has completely whiffed this flop. Chris should feel pretty good about having an overpair to the board right now, even though he doesn't have a diamond in his hand. And you know, Douglas doesn't seem like he's really sure what he wants to do, but I think he feels like, you know, he has the continuation bet here just once, even though he hasn't hit the board.
He does make the C bet to 60,000. Now the question, Maria, do you just call or do you raise in this spot?
Well, you know, if Doug had a little more chips, then I would say Chris should just call. But seeing how Douglas started this hand with 299,000, I think it's fine for Chris here to just go all in and put Doug to the test. And obviously, as you can see, I don't think Doug is going to call off his tournament life here with 2 overcards to the board. Even if Chris did go all in here with a flush draw, you know, Doug's not really hoping for much.
Well, Douglas is going to make the right fold here. Blinds remaining at 8 and 16,000 with a 2,000 chip ante.
Off camera, I do. You know, I gotta say, I like Jackson's style so far. I think that there's no reason to get overly involved, and as you've seen, he's slowly chipped up, and he really hasn't had to do much.
Jackson's going to open here to 32,000 with pocket nines.
I'm all in.
Albert's going to fold, and look at this. Ace-King is going to be enough for Jay to 3-bet all in.
Jay's got about 24 big blinds, so that's perfectly fine to 3-bet shove all in there. And I think Jackson's going to have to call. Like I said, I think nines is a little bit of the cutoff point. I think nines and higher is a hand that you do have to call, basically a 25 big blinds shove with. But Jackson doesn't look like he's a man who likes to flip here.
400,000, a big bet. Very big bet.
It is a significant amount of Jackson's stack, but this is the kind of situation where, you know, you have to start knocking people out, even though it is a decent amount of your stack. If you have somebody covered, this is your opportunity.
Jackson is going to make the call, and he's going to see he's going to the flop ahead, but Jay very much alive with 2 overs. The best drawing hand in poker is going to need to get lucky, otherwise Jay's tournament life will be over, and Jackson will regain the chip lead.
Good luck, man. You too, bye.
I thought I saw an ace in the window, but no, it was a 3, but there's a king behind it, so king 6-3, rainbow is the flop.
Jay hits it. The turn is the 6, an upside down 9.
Still not what Jackson's looking for. He's already counting out the chips for Jay. He knows that he has a very slim chance to hit this 9 on the river. Three of diamonds, and Jay is going to double up huge here.
A little under 800,000 going Jay's way. Don't call it a comeback. Jay is back in the fight here. The one-time chip leader now on the bottom of the ladder as the stacks continue to swap. Maria, you know this better than anybody. When you start a hand in a poker game, you generally have a plan. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. These guys are learning those lessons the hard way. More poker when we come back. Thanks for coming back to the HPT. I've just adjusted my seatbelt. This action at the final table is pretty white hot. Let's get right back to it.
Chris Booth has really increased his chip lead. He's all the way up to 858,000. Jay Bishop, after winning that huge flip against Jackson White, now has 750,000. And as you can see, more than half the table has less than 15 big blinds. Jackson White, who started this final table as our chip leader, is down to just 13 big blinds. And Ben Mintz is still riding that 6 big blind stack. Blinds continue at 8,000, 16,000 with a 2,000 ante.
Action starts on Mac Ledbetter, who hasn't been very active at all, but that's because he's been fairly card dead. But now he wakes up with pocket tens with a 12 big blind stack. That's definitely an all-in shove right there.
Albert peels back ace queen, so I don't think he's going anywhere.
180.
Even though, for me, I probably would fold ace queen in this spot, but Albert has shown that he wouldn't.
I would not fold ace queen against a 12 big blind.
Well, what do
shove.
you know? You're just a professional poker player.
Although the positions, but I will say it's closer than people think because the positions are fairly early. So if you're Albert here, you don't really want to call here for, you know, a good percentage of your stack and then have somebody behind you possibly wake up with a bigger hand and then reshove all in. But at the same time, I just think that they are seven-handed. It is 12 big blinds. I think you have to kind of go with it here. But no, he does what you would have done. So,
well, look at this. That's why I would have folded, because there's so much traffic behind you yet to come.
Absolutely. It's closer than most people think, but I think I would still have made that call. But Ben does wake up with jacks here. And McDonald has him covered, but he has the inferior hand, and it is going to cost him half his stack if he doubles Ben up this hand.
If I'm going to get two outed, let it be to this guy.
That's nice of Ben to say that. If I'm going to take the beat, have Matt give it to me.
If I take it, I'd love it to be
Big flop coming.
Flop is ace 6-3, 2 hearts. No real change for either player, so Ben is still in the lead with pocket jacks, and he also has the jack of hearts.
A heart on the turn here would all but seal the door, eliminating an out for Mac.
Turns the king of diamonds. Mac is still looking for a 10 and only a 10. As we've seen, two outers don't come very often on the river so far this final table.
The river is the 9 of spades, close but no cigar from Mac, and he is going to double Ben up. And as I said, I'm kind of rooting for Ben. I got to spend a little time with him this weekend. He's a big fan of the HPT, was really excited to play this event, so I'm excited to see him here at the final table. And no matter what happens now, he can say he doubled up at a TV final table. Blinds continuing at 8 and 16,000 with a 2,000 chip ante as the rail gives these guys a round of applause, a much-deserved round of applause for a nice deep run here in Mississippi.
Mac's basically on life support after that hand. I would be surprised if he doesn't just pretty much go with whatever he has here.
Action is folded around. We're now on Jackson White, the one-time chip leader, now one of the bottom stacks, as we're seven-handed.
Too many.
Mac's also in the big blind, just an unfortunate situation all around. Obviously, Chris can't fold here. He's just going to have to put Mac all in. It's not really much point in looking.
Chris doesn't love his hand, but you're right, 100%, Maria. What are you going to do? He doesn't have anything behind him. He might as well just flip for it.
Seems like a nice enough guy.
Well, now I'm going to do it again.
Huh?
I said, now I'm a nice guy. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put you all in. Yeah.
And that is exactly what Chris does, and Mac is going to love this kind of a hand. They both share the 10, but Mac's got him out kicked with the queen.
Oh, wait, no, 16 and another 13.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, so 29. Yeah.
So Mac just needs to fade a 7 on this flop. Ouch! Why did I call it?
The flop is king 7 deuce 2 spades. Mac actually has a flush draw here and a queen.
Mac hoping to connect and get lucky. The turn is not the card he wants. It's the 3 of hearts. So Mac now 30% to win, which, if you're a pessimist, it's 70% that this will be his last hand at this final table.
Sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield. And today he is the bug. The 6 of diamonds on the river, and Mac is going to be eliminated in 7th place. He just had an unfortunate run of cards here at the final table. Not much he could do.
Great kid, fun guy to be around, and a heck of a poker player. Mac Ledbetter is going to leave us in 7th place. Well, my friend, a lot of good poker has been played. There's been some questionable play as well. It's that time where I got to ask the professional what she thinks of the play at this final table so far.
Well, anytime that there's a final table with a good mix of amateur players and, professionals, there's going to be a lot of that you're talking about. So I think that everyone's trying to figure out what the best strategy is, and not all of these people are that experienced with this kind of televised final table scenario. So, I think they're doing a pretty good job so far.
Well, we'll see how they continue as we grind our way to a champion, and that will be next time on the HPT. Now, do you think you have what it takes to sit under the bright lights and TV cameras of a worldwide stage the HPT offers? Well, then log on to hptpoker.com and find an event near you. For Maria Ho and James Larson, I'm Fred Bevel. We'll see you next time right here on the HPT.